I'm about to show you my complete SEO process for ranking #1 in Google, and this isn't just theory. This is the exact system I've used to achieve results like this, and this, even as Google's algorithms evolve. I'm Nathan Gotch, an SEO practitioner with over a decade of experience leading hundreds of successful SEO campaigns. So if you're ready to dominate Google, hit the like button to show me you're excited, and let's dive right in.
All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do is see if the page is crawlable and indexable. So what you're gonna do is just go to the page and you need to install the detailed Chrome extension. And so once it's installed, we can quickly go into the website or the page that we're trying to rank and just click on this little icon. And there's a few things we wanna look at. Number one is we're just gonna scroll down and we're gonna look at robots tag. And you actually do wanna see that this is missing. So if there's nothing here, you're good to go. That means there's nothing blocking this page. Now, if you saw no index here, that would be a problem. That would mean that you are actually attempting to block Google's crawler from indexing this page. So we don't want that to happen. So if you see missing, you're good to go. Okay, so the next thing I want to check is the robots.txt file. I just do this just to see if there's a nice, a little manual check here to verify there's no issues. Okay, and as far as I can tell, it is interesting they're blocking Yandex, which is the Russian search engine, and they're also blocking Baidu, which is the Chinese search engine, the Chinese variation of Google. But that's fine if if there's some sort of crawling issues. But for the most part, everything looks good here. And just to give you a counter example, here's what the New York Times robots.txt file looks like. And you'll see it's pretty intense, but notice a couple things here. Number one, they're blocking a bunch of the large language models from crawling their website. They're also blocking a lot of SEO tools, but they're attempting to block the large language models because they don't want these crawlers to come in, extract their content, and then use it in, let's say, ChatGPT, for example. I actually think this is a massive mistake because if they're not allowing these large language models to crawl their site, then they're probably not going to get a lot of visibility in these new large language models. So I think it's probably not wise long term, but to each their own. And so I just, as a general rule of thumb, when it comes to indexing and crawling and indexing, you want your page, your website to be as easily accessible as possible and easily as indexable as possible, because that gives us the best chance to succeed in search engines and large language models. So two other simple things you can do is just make sure you have a sitemap submitted here inside of Google Search Console, and then do the same thing in Bing as well, because ChatGPT is using Bing and it's also using DuckDuckGo, and it's crawling all of these results, and then it's using it for its Search GPT function inside of ChatGPT. So once again, go for total indexability, because that is going to help you across the board, because the goal is not just to rank on Google anymore. We need to be also ranking in these different large language models. So make it easy for crawlers. Another thing you can do, and now this isn't confirmed yet, but there is a possibility that there might be a new text file, which is this llms.txt, which is specifically designed for large language models. Okay. And so you can go ahead, there's a bunch of plugins out there right now. This is the one that I'm using. And basically what it does is it will produce this little file here. Very similar to the robots.txt, but it's specifically designed for large language models. This is not like official. This is not guaranteed. This may not even work, right? But at least it's just one of those little checks you can mark off to say, okay, I do have it. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but at least we have it so that if it does, it can certainly help us get as much crawlability and indexability as possible. Okay, so number two, we want to make sure that the page has good user experience. So once crawlers can actually get to the page, we need to make sure that when users get to the page, they're actually having a good experience, because no matter what you do from this point forward, if users just absolutely hate the page, your chances of ranking and maintaining those rankings are virtually zero. So what we want to do is a couple things. Number one, just having good loading speed in general. It's just a good thing to do. Is it a ranking factor or is it not a ranking factor? It doesn't make a difference, because it is a fact that a fast loading page is beneficial for user experience. So anything that benefits user experience, anything that improves user experience is something that you should do. Now, there's some nuance here, and I do want to kind of show this. So for example, the page that we're analyzing here, I just picked a random HVAC business in St. Louis to do this for. But you'll see that they're doing incredibly well as far as Google PageSpeed Insights, right? They're killing it. It's fast. really, really fast. It passes all the marks, okay? But this is why this can be very deceptive, because if we're chasing this score, you may make sacrifices in other areas. And so there's likely no benefit at all because of the law of diminishing returns, that if you go from, let's say, a 60 to a 90, that it's going to have a significant influence on your performance. More than likely, if you're going from, let's say, the red zone between 0 and 49 to, let's say, average, you might see a nice gain from doing that. Because basically, if you're going from really terrible to just average, you'll probably see the best gains at the end of the day. But if you're going from, already decent to exceptional, it's going to be incremental, if anything. So the goal is just to not be terrible, okay? Which is a very low bar, all right? But if you can certainly go higher, that's great. But the thing is, when you do this, what can happen is like a page like this that you see here that's really raw, right? Like it doesn't have a lot of design, and we'll be talking about this here in a second, but this type of page can load very, very fast, and it can score really well on these tools. But is it a good user experience? Is this page actually helpful? Is this page actually going to drive conversions? Okay, that's the question we need to be asking. And I would argue no. Okay, there's a lot of room for improvement here. So a couple things I'm going to look at for user experience. Number one, we know loading speed is critical. Okay, and I'll be talking more about the goal completion element of this. But a couple kind of like technical checks you want to make sure is, number one, is there an SSL certificate installed? Very basic, but like if you just go up here into the browser, you can verify if it's HTTPS, we know it has an SSL certificate, it passes the test. Next thing I want to do is make sure that it's mobile friendly. So we can just take this, and if you can use tools for this, but you can also just go ahead and collapse this, and you'll be able to see if it's responsive, okay? And it is, so it passes that test as well. And then the next most critical part of this is the design modern. Is the design modern? Okay, and I would say no. So it would not pass the test here for me personally, because this page needs to be upgraded. And one of the most important things, of course, this is my own subjective opinion, and I'll show you how you can use data instead of just opinion, but this page needs to be structured to drive conversions. It's a transactional keyword. It's someone actually looking to get air conditioning repair in a specific city. And someone like that is not looking to, consume a lot of information, especially general information. What they're looking to do is figure out why this company is the best fit to fix their air conditioner. And so what I look at here is there's a lot of information here, but there isn't the page is not structured to drive conversions. It's not structured to get me to act. And we need social proof. We need the page to be designed for conversions. And so this kind of like general format here is not going to do the job. Okay. And I'll talk more about that in a second. But the point is like, we need to make sure that the design standards are keeping up. And there is like, design moves fast. Like your overall design greatly influences user experience. The old idea of like, never judge a book by its cover. Well, that is exactly what people do. Like online, they will judge a book by its cover. And so if your website looks extremely outdated, you're already losing, right? You're not even gonna get a chance to convert them because they're just gonna bounce right off. And so if this was, my client, for example, first thing I would do, and not even before I tell them to get a new site design, first thing I would do is I would install user tracking software. Because with user tracking software, we can use data, real raw data, real quantitative data, to make educated decisions instead of just saying, hey, you need a new site design because it's old, right? And of course, I know this because I've done the work and I have a decade of experience doing this, but I will still use data to make that judgment, okay? And so what you can do is I use Mouseflow, but here's a small example. Like this is for one of our company's rankability. And there's two things you can do in here. Number one, you can do these click heat maps. These are absolutely so crucial. You learn so much about just how your pages are working. But like, I'll just show you on our homepage, funny enough, when we go and look at this data, it's it's surprising, but it's also not surprising at the same time. And so like I'll just show you real quickly what this looks like. So we'll look at the intensity. All right. So you can see really where like a lot of the action's taking place. But the funny thing is, like, to no surprise, most of the action is taking place above the fold. Your above the fold section is the most critical part of any page where you're trying to drive conversions. And in fact, of just any page in general. Like, it's the most important part. And there's so much proof of this because this is just clicks. These are where people are clicking. But as you scroll, look, the clicks get real sparse real quick, right? So like a lot of this stuff that we have down here that we think is so special, it doesn't even get any clicks really at all, okay? Because most of the action is happening above the fold. That is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing for action to happen above the fold. What we want is action. So it doesn't matter whether it happens in a split second or 20 seconds. We want people to do stuff on our website. So this is actually a really good sign. People are watching the video. People are going to our about and our navigation. And of course, they're clicking on the free trial option. So a lot of good things are happening. But what I want to show you is you can actually go to the scroll, okay? And I've studied probably thousands of pages at this point using data like this. And even the best websites, I'm talking like really well designed, really well structured, the fall off is extreme. Like if you look at the drop off here, it's not even at the fold yet, and we've already lost 10% of people, just gone. Now keep in mind, this is not necessarily a bad thing. It could mean that they actually clicked on the navigation, they went to a second page. So you be careful with how you interpret this data, but just look at how users drop off. When we get to the fold, we've lost 40% of users. So you can see the drop off is extreme, and this is why you need to invest a lot of time thinking about how these pages are structured and ultimately cutting as much fluff as you possibly can. That's the key, okay? And so the point is, we need this data to make good decisions. And if you don't have this data, you're just guessing. Right? Even for design, like, oh, we want to do this, this mock-up and this beautiful design. It's like, okay, that's cool, but there's no proof that that particular layout, that particular design is going to drive the actions that we want on that page. And so even if you mock up a design, as soon as you launch it, you need to have this data so you can immediately start collecting to see how well it's converting. And not just having this kind of click data and heat map technology, but you also want to have session replays, okay? And so what this does is it's super creepy, by the way, but it tracks how people are interacting with the website itself. So like we could just take this one, for example, and we can go and play this, and you'll see it's super creepy, but we can actually see what someone is doing on our website, which is so invaluable because you would have to go and watch your wife do it, right? And that's one way to do it, but we can actually see like what this person did. So this person was on the home page, they clicked on the pricing page, they saw the investment, and who knows what happens after this, right? Maybe that was enough for them to make a decision. I don't know. But the point is, like, we can actually see how users are interacting with this, which is really critical, because if we see like, okay, we keep watching these replays and they keep doing this one weird thing, then you can fix that bottleneck. You can fix that friction and make the website better, right? So I just cannot stress enough, having this type of data is invaluable to improve user experience on your site. And improving user experience may not be a direct ranking factor in Google, but it certainly is an indirect ranking factor, no doubt about it. So number 3, have you placed your primary keyword phrase in the right spots on your page? This is just on-page SEO 101, and surprisingly, it doesn't seem to get done very well a lot of the time. And so I'm just going to show you real quickly how you can just do a quick analysis. Once again, use the detailed Chrome extension, and for this particular page, this is a small mistake that I see a lot on the local level, is people will not add the state modifier. And I'm a big fan of adding the state modifier because I think it builds proper relevance. And so you can see here, they do it actually really well here. Afton MO, perfect. They say it on the page. So that probably helps inform Google about the location that they're attacking. But you want that to be more evident in the most critical spots on the page itself. So in your title tag, you should have air conditioner repair or air conditioning repair or AC repair in Afton MO, right? So that way we know for sure that we've got the core service offering and we've got that core location that we're targeting. So those need to be really, really clear. And one of the main reasons, at least in the United States, there's a lot of cities across different states that have the same name. So like, I live in Chesterfield. So in the United States, there's multiple Chesterfields in the United States. So if I don't add that state modifier, Google's pretty smart because it uses NLP and other ways to understand, and entities to understand what the page is about and the relevance. But still, treat Google like it's a 3-year-old. Make it so incredibly clear, because then you don't have to worry about the relevance. So don't be ambiguous is the point. So get it in the title tag, get it in the meta description, make sure it's in the URL. Once again, this one is Afton Air Conditioner Repair. It does have it, so I would say that you could argue this is a pass, but it's just not in the structure that I would prefer, right? That's all. So, and then in the headings, you want to see that's actually popping up in the H1, and it is popping up at least a few times on the page as far as that core service offering and that core location. All right, number 4, does the page cover the topic completely? So to be able to do this the right way, you're going to need a tool like Rankability. And so what you're going to do is go into the Content Optimizer, enter the keyword phrase. I recommend doing the service plus the location and the state modifier. Then click import URL content, and then you put the actual URL you're trying to rank. And what this is going to do is it's going to extract the content from that page and then use it in the analysis. And then make sure you actually search for the city that you're trying to rank in. And what this is really important, because what's going to happen is we're actually going to pull the competitors from that city instead of just looking broadly across the whole United States. And that means you're going to get the most relevant NLP opportunities. Okay, so run that analysis, and then what it's going to look like is this. And what you're going to see is how well this page covers this core topic. So AC repair, Afton, Missouri. Okay, and so as we can tell here, there's okay coverage. It's not horrible. It is hitting on a lot of the kind of core ideas here, but there's also a lot of stuff missing. Okay, and we can see there's a lot of area to make this page more relevant, to hit on a lot of the core topics that the competitors are hitting on. You have to remember that when we're building relevance, there is a bare minimum level of relevance that we need to hit. So let's say, for example, if I'm writing an article about SEO, if I don't talk about on-page SEO or technical SEO or SEO audits or doing link building, then it just looks like I don't understand that topic, right? And so what we want to do is make sure that we are hitting on all the appropriate entities, which is just really a fancy word for topics. And the way that we're doing this is it's dependent on what the competitors are talking about. So all of these recommendations are pulled from the top competitors. And you can actually click on this and see the examples of the context in which these are being used by the competitors. So if we're not talking about the stuff that all the other competitors are talking about, then we can't expect to rank. It's just because there's just a certain level of relevance that we have to hit. That's like bare minimum just to rank, okay? After that, there's a bunch of other stuff which we'll be talking about, but that's like just bare minimum that you have to do. So what you want to do is, if this was my page, this was my client, I would do a complete rebuild of this page with NLP in mind. And so the good news is you can do this really quickly with ChatGPT, and Rankability is actually coming out with a feature here soon where this will actually be done for you just when you run an optimizer here and you click run optimizer. You'll actually be able to have AI create the content brief, create the outline, and create the first draft for you with basically just a click of the button, and it will match the intent of the keyword. So it won't just, spit out some generic informational stuff. It will know the intent of the keyword, and it will produce content knowing that intent. So if it's commercial intent, it will produce commercial-based content. If it's informational, it will produce informational-based content. So this is going to really streamline your content efforts. But in the meantime, you can just go into ChatGPT. And what I like to do is I'll go ahead and just copy the keywords here. So you go up here, you just click this copy to clipboard, and then you just want to create an outline first, right? So create an SEO content outline, and we'll go ahead and zoom in so you can see this better. But create an SEO content outline for the core keyword and then using these NLP keywords, okay? And so what you do is you put those in, And then the last part of this is make it personalized to the company I attached. I went to the company's about page like this, and then I pretend like I'm gonna print it. So go like this, and then I save it as a PDF. Okay, and then I upload that PDF. Now, the good news is with deep research inside, and I'll be using deep research here in a second to show you some stuff, but with this deep research function here, it actually can crawl URLs. So you technically don't need to do this, but I know the deep research function isn't available for like every account. So just if this is a workaround, if you want to do that. So basically what it's going to do is it's going to create a hyper relevant personalized outline that's not just relevant as far as the topics and the entities, but it's going to be relevant specifically for this business and its unique characteristics. So that means that this page is going to be unique, even if you use AI content, because it's going to be specific to this one brand and their unique positioning. Okay, so you can actually just run this through. We'll just run this outline through, and usually I'll do this just to verify that like it's well optimized. And so we'll go in here, we'll just basically paste this in, and we'll see how it did. Okay, so that's great. So it's a great outline. It's highly relevant. It's in a good place. Okay, and so you could certainly just take this, you go and share this. You could hand this off to a writer, and then have them actually go and create the content. So you go in here, and they would just go to Content Optimizer, and they'd have this outline that they could work from. They don't even have to log in if you don't want. And then they can build it from here. Okay, that's certainly a possibility. But you can also have AI just produce the first draft for you. So you can see here, I said, now write the entire SEO asset, optimal between 700 and 1400 words. You can see I pulled that directly from Rankability here. And then we'll go ahead and just copy this and see how it did. Okay, and one thing that, and you can obviously just modify the prompt, but what ChatGPT tends to do is kind of bold the NLP keywords. You obviously don't want to do that in your content. That just looks super spammy. So you'd want to go through and kind of get rid of all the bolding. But you can see here, just on the first, very first draft, we can see it's already a 78. So it's within range as far as relevance, okay? And so this is just the first draft, okay? Remember that. This is like, even if you're using AI content, it's still a first draft. Treat it as if it's not AI content, and it has to go through quality assurance. It has to go through multiple iterations. Most AI content that we publish on any website typically goes between 3 to 5 iterations, meaning 3 to 5 variations from this original draft to actually getting on the website. So, and that's just to ensure that it's actually high quality. So we're gonna have a human come through here, we're gonna have it clean it up, but this greatly accelerates the speed at which you can put out pages. And when it comes to these commercial pages on the local level, I just don't see why you wouldn't use AI content, because it's so fast. It's honestly well above average as far as some writers I've seen out there, and it does exactly what it needs to do. It's fulfilling the intent of the keyword. Okay, so this is just a quick way that you can do this. And at the end of the day, this is what we need to be thinking about, is covering the topic in full. That's critical, because you could do all the other stuff pretty well, but if you don't do this one part well, you're really not going to be able to perform at the level that you need to. Okay, so number 5, is your page high quality? So we already know that we have to nail the relevance. That's really, really critical. But once you nail the relevance, what's the next phase of this process? Well, the next phase is to ensure that not only is it relevant, but it's actually high quality. And so what does it mean to be high quality? Well, the good news is you can certainly use your experience to kind of determine what is high quality and what that might look like. Or you can actually just use the guidelines that Google has to determine what they believe is quality. Now, what I'm about to show you are not necessarily ranking factors, but they're more just good checks that you can use to ensure that your page is as good as it can possibly be. So I have this checklist inside of my ranking diagnosis checklist, which is available inside of Gotch SEO Academy. I'm actually coming up with a new version of it, a 3.0 version, because there's so much that has changed recently. But these questions are pulled directly from Google's Search Quality Evaluator guidelines. And so what I did is you can do this in 2 ways. Number one, you can manually just go through the page and kind of answer these and give it a pass or a fail. Or you can take these questions and take advantage of the deep research function inside of ChatGPT. So I'm using the deep research. And once again, I don't know if this is available on all plans, so bear with me on that. You can also use Grok. They also have deep research. DeepSeek has deep research. So they pretty much all have it now. But the one I've been using is the ChatGPT version. The way that it works is basically I upload the PDF of this page. I also say that, please research the page, actually have it crawl just as a backup. And then I just basically have it grade these questions on a scale of 1 to 10. Now, keep in mind, ChatGPT is it's pretty nice, right? It isn't highly critical. It doesn't really try to give you like hard, rough, advice, but it gives you a good place to start, right? And so when we look at this, you'll see that it goes through and it does the deep research function. You can see that the scores are pretty legitimate. I mean, does the page content satisfy the intent? I would argue it does. Is it the best structure? Is the best content? Not necessarily, but it does satisfy the intent. And they're not trying to be super informational in nature. It's pretty commercial in nature, which does satisfy the intent. So I actually do agree with that. Consensus, you're not really going to see any issues with that for a commercial page on a local level. And then this is the part that is the most concerning, which is, does the content strategy angle add unique value relative to the competitors? This is a problem you see across almost all HVAC companies on the local level and just pretty much every local business. They have a really hard time differentiating their offers from, a lot of these other companies that they compete against because it's highly commoditized. So you have to figure out ways to make your pages unique. And so when we look at this page, there's a lot of opportunity to make it much more unique. And so I would give this, unfortunately, a failing grade, but it is still, it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to improve this page, okay? Is it up to date? Seems, pretty much up to date. Is it readable, scannable, and easy to digest? I would argue no for this, even though ChatGPT says that it is, because yes, it does use short paragraphs. Yes, it is kind of broken up pretty well. But the thing is, this page structure is not designed for proper conversions, okay? So we would want to restructure the page to make it flow better, to drive better conversions. It's mean having a form above the fold, having calls to action above the fold, going left-right format, more visuals, things like that, okay? So, and then going down here, just some other checks that we can go after. But the point is we can use this technology to really streamline our efforts here and give us just some places to start. Keep in mind, this is not going to be 100% accurate, but it is doing pretty solid analysis. And it can give you just some areas where we can kind of focus in and ultimately improve this page. So the goal is to make this page as good as possible. So the way that I would approach this is I would just take one of these ideas, get hyper-focused, fix that one challenge on that page, and then move on to the next one. And so this is like, basically we have a consultant that works with you now when you have this deep research. You basically have a consultant at your side who's gonna do that qualitative analysis for you, and then you're responsible for going and fixing those problems. Now, of course, you just go right back into ChatGPT and ask, okay, how do we make, like you go to one of the ones that didn't score well, which is like, making it unique. So we could focus in on this and say, okay, give me 5 to 10 ways that we could make this page unique compared to the competitors. And then ChatGPT will give you a bunch of options. Maybe 5 out of 10 of them are not great, but you'll get 5 that are decent, and then you can kind of double down on that. Okay, so now for number 6, is your page prioritized in the site architecture? And do we have enough internal link coverage? So the way you want to do this is I highly recommend using Screaming Frog. So you do a Screaming Frog crawl and then you export the report like I've done here. Now the URL that we're looking at here is this one specifically, and you'll see the air conditioner repair in Afton. And if you scroll over, you're going to go ahead and see 2 columns that you really want to pay attention to here, which is number 1 is the crawl depth column, okay? And so we want to see that this page is no more than 3 clicks deep, okay? And they've actually done a really good job here. It's only 2 clicks deep. That's perfectly fine. That'll do the job. The next thing I want to look for is unique in links column, okay? And this essentially is how many other pages are internally linking to this page, how many unique pages. And so they only have 2. And what that tells me is that there's an opportunity to drive more internal link coverage to that page. Now, one way you can do this is just immediately go and look for other pages within that Afton cluster. So you can see here, I found at least 8 pages that are in that one cluster. And so those should all be internally linking to each other because they're all in the same cluster. And so you can really help support each of those pages, because if just one of those pages gets a backlink, it's going to lift that whole cluster up. So it's really, really important that you leverage internal linking, because it's really the best way to basically get the most out of each backlink that you get, squeeze the most out of each one. So it's really important. Now, on top of that, speaking of backlinks, if we scroll over, you're going to see, if you use the Ahrefs API, you're going to be able to see if this page has a sufficient amount of backlinks just with this crawl alone. I'll be talking more about backlinks in a second, but the point is we can start to see these gaps for this website. Now, what I want to show you is, in addition to just that one page, the truth is you can rebuild the site as a whole, which then will improve the performance of each individual page. And so there's some site-wide issues that you need to be careful of. And so I'll show you real quickly. A site like this, they have a massive amount of pages, and more than you would really expect. Okay, so one of the things we can do is, first, we're just going to look only at indexable pages. And what I like to do is I'll often sort this address column. And what I'm looking for is starting to see some trends with the types of pages that they're building. So just real quickly, I can see they've got a lot of pages that are specifically targeting secondary cities in St. Louis. That's totally fine. You can do that. The only downside of doing that is it's really hard to create unique content across all those pages. There's ways to do it, but it becomes harder the more that you try to expand that out. But the other thing I want to look for is, are there any pages that can be pruned? Because one of the best things you can do when you immediately start an SEO campaign is just thinking, how do we clean the website up? How do we take out the trash, make the website leaner, and ultimately make it more efficient? And this actually benefits the site as a whole. It makes it easier for crawling and indexing, and more importantly, cutting off all of that junk actually could lift the other pages that you actually want to perform better. Okay, so going through here, I wouldn't actually get rid of the cluster pages. I would probably just upgrade them. These like city-focused clusters, I would just upgrade those pages, make them better. I wouldn't get rid of them. But what I would start to look at more is some of these pages here that are over optimized. Okay, so I'll go ahead and collapse this so you can see. But looking at the blog section, okay, take a look at how the title tags are structured on all of these pages. 10 facts you didn't know about your furnace. St. Louis HVAC tips. Okay, so this has been attached to almost every single blog post. And so what we're doing here is we have a topic, but then we're slamming on, a key word to the end of it that's not relevant to that page. And so you really don't want to do that. I would get rid of this across all of these pages. But honestly, most of this content, which I'll be talking about here in a second, this is not the way that you want to build topic authority. Okay, this is not the way you want to do it, because really these are just kind of general pages that broadly talk about the topic, but they don't specify the city that we're attacking. Okay, so this is an opportunity to start cleaning some of this up, getting rid of the stuff that's not performing well. And the good news is you don't have to guess your way through this. You just go and look over here back at the data. And in a normal environment, you would have Google Analytics, you would have Google Search Console, and then you would also have the Ahrefs data, and then you can make informed decisions. And what you're looking for is you want to find pages that have 0 impressions in Google Search Console, 0 traffic in Google Analytics, and 0 backlinks with Ahrefs. So if it hits all 3 of those and the page isn't very good, that's an opportunity to make some moves. Typically, deleting is one that we will use, but if it is targeting a good keyword, then we'll probably opt to upgrade that page, make it better, right? And then in some cases, maybe that page just needs more backlinks. So it could be a variety of things, but for the most part, there's a lot of pages that likely could be deleted, okay? So just focus on the pages that have no positive KPIs, and that can sometimes be a couple hundred pages that you can prune and clean up the site, okay? Now, going over here, another thing you want to take a look at are just, categories or paginated pages that just are flooding Google's index with junk, okay? So when we look at this, there's tons of category pages here that are indexed in Google. And all of these should just be no index. If you no index these, you're immediately gonna clean up the index by a couple hundred pages, just like overnight, basically. Now, it's going to take time for Google to recrawl that and re-index it all. But the point is like this immediately can improve the site just by slapping a no index tag on these categories. It can make a significant impact. And you can see they've got a lot. They've actually probably got maybe even up to 400 or 500 of these pages. And just getting rid of these alone is going to really, really clean up their indexation ultimately for this domain. Okay. And then going down here, there's probably some other stuff here as well. Some paginated stuff that you could clean up. So before you even touch the actual content itself, just cleaning up the categories and the paginated pages is enough to just get the ball rolling with pruning this website and making it more efficient. So number 7 is, does this page have enough topical support? Are there other pages that are supporting and lifting this page up? So there are 2 ways you can do this. You can do this with the Screaming Frog crawl that you ran, and you can just go and start searching for the specific city that they're going after. So in this case, I just searched Afton, and come to find out they've got about 8 or so pages that are highly relevant in this one cluster. And that's a pretty good amount. That's better than most websites. But you can also actually use ChatGPT to do this now, which is kind of cool. Is if you use the deep research function, you can find every page on the website that targets that one keyword phrase. Now, of course, this doesn't really replace a Screaming Frog crawl, because the Screaming Frog crawl is going to give you all the data and there's going to be much more to work with. But you can use this actually to find keyword cannibalization, right? You could have it crawl and look for instances of keyword cannibalization on this site. And funny enough, it finds basically every instance of Afton on their website, and it also talks about other pages that are actually mentioning Afton. So you could actually look for some internal linking opportunities there as well. So once again, another powerful way to use ChatGPT. But the point is, we want to make sure that there's a lot of topic support. And so when people think about building topical authority, they often think about informational content, but you can actually build the relevance and the support even using commercial pages. In fact, I recommend starting there. Like if you're going to build out, furnace repair or AC repair Afton, Missouri, then what are the other commercial pages where we can directly support that? So, it might be air conditioner, AC installation, Afton, Missouri. It could be emergency AC repair, right? So there's other variations of that keyword that we can attack. And then from there, we need to start thinking about, okay, how do we build support around this idea of AC repair and in that location? So what you can do is a couple things. Number one is I start thinking about link bait, because on the local level, you should really be trying to create as much link bait and topically relevant content. So essentially you want the core service offering and the location for each of those topics. So I have a bunch of techniques inside of Gotcha SEO Academy for building link bait. Like this is I really love this process of building link bait. Basically what I think you should do is generate 100 link bait ideas. And I've got a bunch of techniques, but just to show you how easily you can do this in ChatGPT, you just go in here and you say, give me 10 link bait ideas for an HVAC company targeting St. Louis that's relevant to the core location. So you could also do Afton in this case, but I just did St. Louis to show you. And within a couple of seconds, we get some really, really good ideas. And they're not all perfect, but they're definitely good ideas to start with, good seeds to work with. And then here's the cool part. Once you find a really good idea, you can use the deep research function to actually go and do that research for you. Okay, so we'll go back here. I did another one that's more data driven. So like give me 10 data driven ideas, and it came up with a bunch of beautiful ideas. But then I use the deep research function, okay, and it's still going here, and you can see it's still building on the sources. But basically it's gonna do all this research specifically for this one topic, which is the most common HVAC issues in St. Louis. So it's going to go through, do that deep research, and this just saves so much time. And I recommend using this basically for any type of content that you're going to be building. Like if you're just creating a informational piece of content, you can have ChatGPT, or even, you can go to Grok as well to do this research for you. Just go in here and you click on deep search, and it will do the same thing for you, right? It'll do the same thing. And there's some other ones out there as well. But the point is like, this is the type of thing that you want to do, because what it's going to do is it's going to crawl most of the internet and find all of those sources, then bring it all back to you. And then it's done all that heavy lifting of research for you. This is like, I don't know if there's anything that's going to save as much time as just this alone. Research is one of the most time consuming elements of creating SEO content and just creating content in general. So this is just so important. I cannot stress it enough. But you can use it to actually build the link bait as well. Okay, so it's just really awesome, and I highly recommend taking advantage of it. Okay, so it takes a long time. It can take anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes longer. But you can see now it's actually done here. So we can go and look here right away, and it's already started to develop a really good asset and the types of things that St. Louis business or St. Louis homeowners might experience, right? And it's actually giving us data. It's giving us all the citations. So we can actually go and take all of this information and this research that it gave us and create a really lean, like jam-packed of value and data type of asset. And it will certainly be exceptional compared to what you see on the local level. This would be incredible compared to what you often see on the local level. So just take advantage of this. It can really help you create awesome content. All right, so now moving on to number 8, which is, does the page drive some type of goal completion? So one of the variables with the helpful content update and these the various updates that Google's launched recently that seem to attack a lot of affiliate-based websites, one of my theories, and there's many ideas out there, but one of the things I think really played a big influence is affiliate websites versus actual brands that sell products and services. And what I found when I did my analysis across many different industries is the websites that did not get affected, and they didn't necessarily grow during the updates, but they just kind of either stayed flat or grew a little bit. The only consistent correlation that I saw between those sites is that they actually sold something, right? So either a product or a service. They kept people on their website. They didn't send people off of their website to Amazon or some sort of affiliate offer, okay? So the thing you should be thinking about is, how do we get users to stay on our site and complete goals that we need them to complete? And so when I look at this page, there are a lot of calls to action, but the challenge is we need to make it easier for leads to ultimately convert on this site. So to be totally honest, we would probably do a full redesign of the site just to make it more conversion focused. But in general, a good website is going to have a lot of great flow and a lot of good contrast. So when we look at this site, you can see there's just a lot of opportunity to improve, but it's better for me to actually show you a really good example. So this site here is just a really good example of what a conversion focused design looks like. This is, and I'm not saying you should go and just copy this business, but this is just a really good example to add to your swipe file. So then you can take some elements of what they do to apply it in your situation. So even just the small little details of the contrast of the calls to action button. Look how they really pop in on this design. But compared to this, the calls to action blend with the menu and the text, and there's just no contrast. There's too much red, and it's overwhelming this design, which is going to make people not click on the buttons, okay? And we need that to happen. Also, you can easily call right here. If we click on this, we can actually call and immediately convert. Here, this phone number isn't clickable, right? So the person would have to manually enter that into their phone. Conversions will die there. Okay, that's just not going to work. And then more importantly, everything is nicely spaced out. We've got a nice call to action up here. We've got a nice one here and another one here. They're all spread apart. They're nicely situated. There's social proof above the fold. There's not a ton of clutter. Your eyes focus on the things that we need to do. So it's very clear what a good design looks like. And you can see as you go down, it's built for conversions. Every single section on this page has some sort of conversion objective. We've got a beautiful form here. We've got, once again, another little call to action, little section in here. It's beautiful. We've got services with more calls to action. So you get the point. This is what a great conversion focused design looks like. And they're shifting up their different CTAs. So it doesn't get much better than this. This is I would say a 10 out of 10 as far as conversion design. This is beautiful. So this is what we should be. This is what we should aspire to do. And most importantly, don't use stock images. Look at how they're using unique images specific to their brand. It's just a really, really good job. So take this and put it in your swipe file and take little parts of it that you like, and then obviously personalize it to your brand. So now for number 9, does the website have branded searches, and do they have a good reputation? Okay, this is really important. So one of the things you can do is you can just export
all of the keyword data for a website like this. You can use SEMrush or Ahrefs, and you can pull all their keyword data, okay? And so what I like to do is I like to see, do they have a lot of branded searches? And so we'll go ahead and just filter this, and you're gonna see here that they do. They actually have a good amount of branded searches. It looks like, about 13,000 searches a month just around their brand. Okay, so that's actually really, really good. And even if, maybe it's not that high, we can even cut it in half. Let's say 5,000 is still a lot. Okay, and so this is a signal that either A, they've got a lot of word of mouth, which is really good. It could also mean they're doing offline advertising to drive this branded search. And it also means that they're just doing general good marketing. And so that will ultimately support the SEO performance as well. So you really want to see this. And once again, going back to the possible variables that, influence the helpful content update and all the sites that got hit, another consistent variable is that a lot of the sites that got hit had no brand, right? They were completely reliant on non-branded search traffic. Okay, and so that is okay, and that converts the best, but you also need to have the branded search volume coming in as well, because it confirms that you're a legitimate business, right? You're a legitimate business that people are actually interested in. They're going to Google to learn more about you, okay? And so you can go and find this data inside of Google Search Console as well, and you want to see that it's, one of your most popular keywords should certainly be your branded keyword, okay? Now, what we want to do is also look at the reputation of this brand. This will greatly influence SEO performance. So the quickest thing at the local level is just look at the local pack, right? And look at how they're doing with their Google business profile. So without even any further analysis, we're starting to see some problems here. A 4.2 and a 3.7 and a 3.7 on Facebook, like the average here could possibly get into the threes. This is an area where we would really want to get hyper focused. So when I look at all the opportunities here, this is an area where I'm like, okay, this is code red. This is code red. We need to fix this ASAP. And so another thing you can do is, like, if you want to confirm how important reputation is for SEO, just go to the Search Quality Evaluator Guidelines and just search reputation, okay? Now, 213 times it's mentioned in here. 213, a ton. It matters a lot. And so you cannot underestimate how important this is. It needs to be a top priority. And it's not just for SEO. Like, there's a cascading effect. This is a lead domino, because when you improve your reputation as a brand, you are actually going to drive more sales, and you're probably going to get better SEO performance in general. So like, there's so many other benefits to doing this outside of SEO. It's just a no-brainer. Okay, so another thing you can do is to kind of like get some further analysis is you can actually, once again, use the deep research function for this. And what I did here is I said, perform objective research about the brand, and the goal is to measure the brand's reputation and use customer feedback, reviews, or other UGC to improve the company's standing as a whole, okay? And so I said yes to everything, and you can see here it actually went and analyzed every single thing about this brand and gave us all kinds of feedback about certain things that they're not doing well, certain things they are doing well. And then at the end of this, it actually gives some actionable opportunities to actually improve their performance. Okay, so enhance communication and follow-up, prioritize existing customers during peak times. Like, these are actual practical things where you can start to build systems to improve these little areas of friction in the business. And the better you do this, the more that the ultimate reviews and the reputation and the sentiment will improve. Okay, and that's what has to happen. So do this kind of analysis on your own brand. And this is the cool thing about ChatGPT. It's going to just give you the facts. It's going to give you the facts. It's not going to be fluffed up by someone who's has a lot of conviction in your business. It's going to be just raw. The AI doesn't care, right? So it's just going to give you the facts here based on what other people are saying about that brand. And so a lot of people don't think about this when it comes to SEO, but it really can affect your performance. Okay, now for number 10 is, does the page have enough high quality backlinks? Okay, so this is really important. You can get the other 9 steps right and do really well and see great performance gains.
but backlinks are the fuel on the fire. We need them not only to the domain as a whole, but also that individual page that we're trying to increase in performance. Now, you can, a rising tide does lift all ships, and that certainly can happen, but sometimes to get to number one, you got to hit that page directly with, a few backlinks, not typically a lot, but just kind of depends on the competition. So once again, with the Screaming Frog crawl, I already showed you can just go and see how many backlinks this one page has, and they don't have any. Okay, so already a gap that we can fulfill. It doesn't even matter how many the competitors have, because if we have 0, it doesn't even make a difference. So we know we need to acquire links direct. We know we need to build support around that page, drive backlinks to the informational assets. More should go to informational assets than commercial assets, but sometimes you do have to hit direct, okay? And so what we want to do is first look at this, and then inside of rankability, if you click on the competitors tab, you can actually run the URL through and just see kind of where they stack up as far as the overall domain strength. So domain score is just a metric we're using to determine the overall strength of these websites from a link profile perspective. And so they're at a 257, which means they're in range with a lot of the competitors. Like there's a couple that are one that's a little bit stronger, but for the most part, overall domain strength doesn't seem to be a problem here. So we can go ahead and eliminate that as a possibility. And we know that it's probably one of the other 9 variables that we've tackled today. And if we tackle all those other 9 variables to perfectly, we execute them perfectly, then we know it's time to drive links directly to that page. It's just a fact, because you've done everything else, right? So that's what we want to be looking at. And so the question is, how do we get links? So couple of ways. Number one is you can outsource it. And so one of the vendors that I recommend is digital.pr. And these links that they're going to get are really, really strong, like super strong links. Occasionally they can get links to internal pages, but sometimes they're going to be the homepage as well. Because these links are so strong, it will still lift the entire website, okay? Because you can get a lot of homepage links and it will lift every other page. And it's also natural to get links to your homepage. So they'll use a variety of techniques, different PR techniques, to land you really, really strong links. And you can see here a minimum of DR50, okay? So normally to get a link like this on your own, you're gonna have to spend, $400 to $500 just to get one link. And they're actually gonna get you a pretty decent amount for this investment. And you don't have to even lift a finger, right? They just do it for you. So highly, highly recommend them. If you're planning on outsourcing, this is definitely the service you wanna use. So just go to digital.pr. And in addition to outsourcing, I also recommend developing your own manual kind of in-house link building processes. I teach all of this inside of Koch SEO Academy. I mean, it's almost excruciating detail, 120-page SOP right here, just for creating link bait, finding link prospects, link building techniques, the whole thing, 120 pages of SOP, and it's very in-depth. But one of the things I want to show you today is just a real simple technique you can use. And because of the deep research function, it's made life so much easier. And so you can basically just go ahead and put in an SOP. So in this case, I did donation link building, and then I told it to find donation link building opportunities. Okay, and I just specifically focused on a few cities, but in this case, maybe we would focus on just Afton to tap out all those opportunities. And then, with just 9 minutes, it went and found a bunch of donation link opportunities, okay, like good ones. And then I said, give me even more opportunities, and it found, 20 more. So, I'm telling you, I've done this research myself more times than I can count, like actually going into Google and finding all the opportunities. It is so time consuming. It really is. And now we can just put the SOP in, let the AI do the work, and now we can move on to the next link building tactic. We just keep building on this. And then, now link prospecting could probably take about a day instead of taking like a week, like sometimes it used to take, okay? So once again, take advantage of this deep research function, because it's gonna help you be able to find these prospects and even help you develop some outreach strategies to acquire these as well. So that's all I have for you today. If you want more help from me with your SEO and you want to grow your business or grow your agency, then go to nathangotch.com. We got a little survey here. It takes just a couple of seconds, and it will give you personalized help into what's the best solution for your current situation. But regardless, just use this video I gave you today and you will get better results just by using this one video. But if you want to go to the next level, you want to get results faster, obviously reach out and let's see if there's an opportunity to work together. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and please like this video and subscribe because I got a lot of other videos coming soon. Thank you so much for watching.